you're investing sometimes a lot of money in an Airbnb.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear you're using it. We've actually seen a good amount of usage from that vertical.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, everybody, welcome to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast here. Going to welcome in a great guest here in just a minute, but first I want to pause and remind you that we are sponsored by a couple of great companies. Of course, OREP Insurance. OREP is my E&O of choice, OREP.org, OREP.org. And Spark. Spark will allow you to be able to take information and put it directly into your report, which saves you time, saves you money. Go to spark4appraisers.com. Again, spark4appraisers.com. I want to welcome back to the program. I think this is his third appearance on the Appraiser Coach podcast. His name is Mr. Jeff Allan. He is the president of CubiCasa. Welcome back, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me again. Always good to be here.
It is good to have you as well. I was looking back through. I knew you'd been on a couple times, but episodes, if people want to go back and learn a little bit more about you and your company, episode number 780. 780 was the first time that Jeff was on, and then episode 903 was the last time Jeff was on. Jeff, of course, is the president of CubiCasa, and he served as the executive vice president, Innovation Labs for Clear Capital. Welcome back. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background in technology and real estate? What brought you into this game?
Yeah, so throughout my entire career, which it pains me to say is getting very long now, I felt like I used to be a young buck, but not so much anymore. I've been involved in one form or another, either in real estate side of things, so like real estate listings, MLS data, that sort of things, or the valuation space, so appraisal, and kind of played equal parts of my career in both worlds. But really, the journey I've been on the last, I would say, 10 years or so was really initiated by the appraisal space. I was managing a large AMC that was performing valuations for a large lender, and that was when the market really started getting tough from the standpoint of appraiser capacity starting to get very limited in the 2015, 2016 range, and turn times taking a really long time, and kind of the frustration for both lenders and appraisers in that process. And so I was kind of on the front lines of that, getting yelled at by lenders every day. Why are these reports not coming in fast enough, and that sort of thing. Job. And I just kind of thought, man, it's a blast. Let me tell you, as much as the appraiser doesn't like being told they're late, the AMC gets it even worse in many cases. I think I saw up front how difficult the process was becoming for everybody involved. The appraisers getting reports queued up for weeks that they couldn't get to. The frustration on all sides of why is this taking so long? It just felt like, man, there's got to be a way to make this more efficient. Got to be a way to make this better for everybody involved. So really, then in my career, focused a lot after I joined Clear Capital on how do we make the process better, right? How do we kind of bring some new approaches to things to make things better? And in the process of doing that, stumbled upon this amazing company called CubiCasa, who had this incredible floor plan automation tool. And that's then been the journey from the last 3 or 4 years on.
Now, if I remember right, and I want to dive in a little bit about the company itself. If I remember right, it was kind of started or at least launched in Europe.
Yes, the company was founded in Finland, believe it or not.
Okay. And obviously you've made great waves. Tell us, most appraisers, I think, are familiar with CubiCasa. If they're familiar with inspections and sketching, then they know that there's more options than just a few. We know a few of our listeners, very few, of course, are still using 100-foot tape. Some have graduated to the laser, but many have not graduated to something like CubiCasa. So talk to us. What is it? What does it do?
Yeah, so CubiCasa is a technology that you can just download freely from the App Store, works on Android or Apple devices, and it allows you to use your smartphone as a capturing device to create a floor plan and GLA calculations. And what's unique about it is that it really is so easy to do that it takes no prior training, and 5 minutes of just walking and scanning. You don't have to do a bunch of complicated workflow on the device or afterwards. It's just walk and scan, upload, and then our output comes back to you with the floor plan and the GLA calculations. So, when people first hear about it, or they first test it, the reaction is usually they use the word magic because you don't think it's going to work. You're like, how would this possibly work? And yet it does.
Right.
And that's a bit of, the uniqueness of it is that it's designed to be as easy to use as possible. And that's why it's been successful. Our primary market is honestly on the real estate side of things. We're used a lot by agents, by real estate photographers who want to get a reliable floor plan and measurements for the house to be put on the market, right? They want something to represent the flow of the property to buyers. So that's really our primary use case. That's where we get the most of our orders from. But we still have a really strong kind of loyal set of appraiser users that we see in our stats too, who are using us frequently, which we love to see. So for appraisers who are using us, some folks use us on all their inspections because they like the time savings and the consistency it creates. And then others will use us in some cases just with a really complicated big house, because that's where we tend to really deliver a lot of time savings, right? Like you do the 5,000 square foot house with all these crazy angles around the outside, and you're like, oh, this is going to take me 2.5 hours to measure, but I could do it in 5 minutes from my phone. Okay. For this one, I'll use CubiCasa, but maybe I get a 1,500 square foot rectangle. I might do it the old fashioned way. So that's what we tend to see from the appraiser community.
You've been there a long time, Jeff, and I'm sure you've seen it all, as they say. Talk to us about some of the challenges that you have encountered. Let's start with on a technology side, and then I'm going to go to a usability or a customer base side. But on a technology side, what are some challenges that you guys have seen and had to overcome?
Well, I think definitely the fact that our product is so easy to use is both why it's popular, but also why it's technically challenging to execute on. We have built over the course of 6-7 years now highly complex AI models that are essentially rendering and generating the floor plan output from what is in many cases a super fast low quality scan. Some folks, because we say, hey, you don't need any training, just grab it out of your pocket and use it. That's kind of our brand promise. Sure. We get some pretty awful scans. People just sort of like randomly run around the house and do this for 5 minutes. That is sometimes what we see. And we've had to build a lot of really custom, impressive tech by the super genius people we have in Finland to make that all work. And it's something we've gotten a lot better at. And it's a reason that it's hard for other companies to compete with us on a similar type of product. But it's been a big technical challenge along the way.
Sounds like
we're
you've been aware
happy
of it and handled it well. Let's talk about from a usability standpoint and from an adoption standpoint. Obviously I've got my ear to the ground. I try to pay attention to what's going on in the appraisal world. And with any technology, you're going to get those that are, this is great. It's wonderful. You're going to get some that, just like it says behind me, that change is simply an opportunity cloaked in fear. But a lot of people fear new technology. They fear the adoption. They focus on the negatives. What have you dealt with in the appraisal world specifically to adoption of such technology?
Definitely, as you described, I think an understandable mindset amongst appraisers of, I got to make sure I can trust this before I can consistently use it. And I completely understand that. And actually, we encourage people, that if you feel like you really, the only way you can feel comfortable doing a 1004 is by saying, I personally measured with a tape measure, then we probably aren't the right product for you. And that's okay. But I think for people who do test us out and do use us, what they learn is that it is consistent. We remove a lot of the steps from the process, and we make sure that the outputs always render in the same way. Mm-hmm. So we are removing the human error element of this, and we are going to calculate in a way that's consistent each time. So I would say testing it is the key to anybody. You just have to try it out and get used to it. And then I would say if you have questions about what we produce, we love our customer support team. They will do side-by-side comparisons. If you have your own hand-drawn sketch you did of the same house and you see some differences and you want to send it to us and have us tell you why it's different, and maybe something you could do differently with your scanning style to improve it, we will take that time. We will do that because we know it's important to get people comfortable.
I testify they do, folks. I've used CubiCasa. I had a house. In fact, I remember exactly which house it was. There was a really weird angle on it, and I was worried about it. Honestly, CubiCasa did it. I was worried about it, so I double checked it the way that the old-fashioned way, if you will. But I was in contact with their customer service, and I was actually blown away, Jeff, with how one-on-one they were. Like, it was not dealing with a bot. I wasn't dealing with somebody that was robotically reading the screen. This guy was there to help. He was there to assist, and I assume get better as a company as well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we number one, we want folks like you to feel that level of one-on-one comfort, like you talk to a human, because you did. We don't use AI chatbots. But also, we're really big believers in the feedback we get through our customer support team. We want to feed that back into the company, so we're always trying to get better. No question.
Very good. Jeff Allan is with us with CubiCasa. When we get back, Jeff, I want to talk about what you guys have been working on and what the future of CubiCasa looks like. First, I want to pause and remind you folks of some great companies that have been sponsors here for a very long time. First is Spark. Spark, of course, is the ability to be able to transfer data, folks, from this screen to this screen with a punch of a button. If you are tired of manually putting in all kinds of information into your report, and of course, as Jeff talked about, running the risk of human error, you need Spark. Spark will do it for you and do it quickly and save you money. Go to spark4appraisers.com. Again, spark4appraisers.com. And of course, you know, folks, we all need it. We don't want to think about it, but we definitely want it when we want it. And OREP has your back. OREP has been my E&O of choice for many, many years. Very thankful for them. Folks, talk about one-on-one customer service, as Jeff and I were talking about with CubiCasa. I'll tell you, the people over at OREP are real people who really care. I've utilized the service, folks, not just as an E&O provider, but as a claimant. I needed them when I needed them, and they were there for me, working with me hand in hand. They will be there for you, folks. That's what you need when it comes to insurance, and specifically with your E&O. If you're with any other company, I encourage you to check them out. OREP.org. That's OREP.org. All right, folks, we are back. We are talking with President of CubiCasa, Mr. Jeff Allan. Welcome back, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Third time on the show. We've changed a little bit over time, but appreciate you being back on the show. We at the Appraiser Coach are very pro technology. We're very pro whatever help we can give to appraisers, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, is to showcase some of the tools that are out there, folks. And as Jeff pointed out, they're not perfect, but neither are you. And I'm talking to you listeners, right? We make our mistakes, but I'll tell you, first time I used CubiCasa, Jeff, I have to admit, I didn't think the word magic, but I certainly experienced it. It was actually kind of surreal to walk around with my phone and think this is going to be transferred into a sketch. And when it came back, I honestly was very skeptical. I remember I have a storage room, and it's stuffed full of food storage crap. I mean, I'm not a prepper, but I'm a prepper, right? I've got so much food in there, and I'm walking around thinking, you know, there's no way. There's no way this thing is going to work. And that's the first section I went to when I got my first scan back, which was on my own house, just to test it out. And I went right to that wall, and I'm like, son of a gun. It did it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the experience a lot of people have. And I'm glad we could give that to you. You are an important person to make happy.
No, well, I appreciate that. Well, one of the things, we've been talking, of course, as the appraisal industry, which is obviously what this show is all about. But Jeff, I have to tell you, I've utilized this in my Airbnbs as well. I think we talked about that on the last episode you were on, and it has helped a ton. I used to have people all the time saying, "Well, I'm a little confused. How many bedrooms and how are the beds set up and what's on the main floor and how can I access?" And I just went right to your 3D scan. I did every one of my properties with a 3D scan, and I actually took a picture of it and put it inside both the Airbnb and the VRBO listings so that people, as they scan through the listings, they can actually see the layout, folks. And I'm telling you, in fact, my son was looking at this just a couple of days ago. I was showing him one of my Airbnbs. He goes, "Oh, I've never seen your 3D thing." And he's in property management, by the way. And he started looking and he goes, "They even got the color of the bedspreads right." I mean, it's
Awesome.
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. And yeah, we are seeing a good amount of growth from the vacation rental space. I think for the reason you just described is people realize that segment in particular, the buyer is really at an informational disadvantage. You know, they're not a buyer, they're a renter, but um, they they do not have the ability to really understand the flow of a property very well. They're never going to see it before they make the purchase decision.
Right.
Unlike when you're buying a house or renting an apartment to live in, you are making the decision based upon the information you have available online.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're investing sometimes a lot of money in an Airbnb. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you're using it. We've actually seen a good amount of usage from that vertical.
Very cool. Talk to us about the future. Where do you see this going? What are the next few years going to bring for CubiCasa?
Well, I think that the technical capabilities that AI and machine learning models will be capable of, just from a 5-minute smartphone scan, are only going to get better. So there's some pretty exciting new methodologies and approaches to kind of converting raw imagery that's collected and scan information that's collected into even more higher quality immersive type outputs. So that's really where we see this going, is you can get, almost anything you could imagine in terms of visual assets, different types of floor plan outputs, reports, data, all could be generated from this same 5-minute process that anybody with a smartphone could do. That's where we see this going over time. And so I think there's all sorts of opportunities to make appraisers more efficient with that, to make agents and photographers more efficient. And I just think there'll be more and more of that in the years ahead.
Very cool. Jeff Allan with CubiCasa, thank you for being with us. You mentioned it can be downloaded on Apple, on Android. Where else can people go to find out more if they're interested in learning about CubiCasa?
You can also check us out at CubiCasa.com. We've got tons of information and resources there. Yeah, it's CubiCasa.com.
Thank you, Jeff.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.